Alright guys, welcome back to Finn's Philly Sports. This is a continuation of my last video. We are here again to continue discussing the Eagles schedule. I'm sorry if the last video, as I was looking back over it after I'd published it, it seemed as if for some parts of it it hadn't exactly been centered, so for this video we're going to try and make it a little bit more broadly centered so that you can see what I'm talking about a little better. But if I remember correctly from last time, we left off saying that the Green Bay Packers was the only team that could possibly hand us a loss in these first 4 games. So we're just going to pick up right game number 5 with the New York Jets. Now, New York is a very interesting team because they have the potential with a young quarterback and an all-star Pro Bowl running back in Le'Veon Bell, who's led the league in rushing yards several times, as well with a not mediocre, but at least average core of players, including some standouts like Jamal Adams. They have the potential to do very well, but even though Sam Darnold played last year for a lot of it, they didn't really do that well still, and they picked up a couple of pieces. They got a new linebacker, they've got Le'Veon Bell, and obviously they picked up Quinn Williams in the draft, but I don't really see them doing more than 8-8, 7-9. So I still think that the Eagles will beat out Sam Darnold, just really because the Eagles have the strong D-line that can overwhelm a young quarterback who has a running back who wants to take the entire show on himself. Very dramatic and very need to be the center of attention. So there's going to be fights, even at this point, even at week 5, between Darnold and Bell, or between Bell and the Jets' leadership, that I think is going to weaken that connection. But as well, I think the Eagles secondary with Malcolm Jenkins and the new depth free safety with Sendejo and hopefully with McLeod being healthy, as well as if players like Ronald Darby and Avonte Maddox and Jalen Mills and our corners can basically actually perform to the standards of starting cornerbacks by week 5, I think we'll be able to cover their receivers, leaving them basically with nothing. So I think we're going to grab a win over the Jets there. And this next game is really interesting because the Vikings, for us, it's sort of a revenge game for both of us. Obviously, when we went to the Super Bowl and we played them, we beat them very soundly, 38-7, which was an incredible game to watch. However, last year when we played them, we did lose. So it's sort of both a revenge game for them because they're going to be avenging that loss for years to come. Because not only did they have a team that could have gone really far and had just gotten so incredibly lucky to even be there, but they have something to prove because they have their new, incredibly rich man in Kirk Cousins. But the real battle here, I think, is going to be our secondary, because when we go up against Adam Thielen and Kyle Rudolph and Stephon Diggs, like, we just collapse. Like, when you have receivers, Stephon Diggs, who's just as elusive as he is with incredible route running, as well as an Adam Thielen who plays sort of like our Alshon Jeffrey, in that he's incredibly tall and plays like a basketball player, and that, they've got good tight ends with a O-line to support them, and with a couple of decent running backs to help take off that pressure. The only thing that makes me feel a little bit better is that their quarterback isn't anyone really special. It's Kirk Cousins. So I think if our pass rush can be as effective as we hope it's going to be with the addition of Malik Jackson, and if Sharif Miller gets any time, then I believe we're going to do pretty well. I wouldn't be shocked if it was a tough game. However, I would be shocked if we did lose, because I feel like overall the Eagles just have the pieces that we need now with Jordan Howard to be able to break past that run defense the Vikings have, as well as just extra experience for all of our receivers, and with hopefully a healthy Carson Wentz, I think we can beat them. Now, the Dallas Cowboys, every Eagles fan knows that we, in the modern era, we split with the Dallas Cowboys every year, because they're, as much as I hate to say it, the Cowgirls have a good team. They have Ezekiel Elliott, who's perennially one of the best running backs. They've got Dak, who's supposedly an up-and-coming quarterback. I don't know exactly how much of that is true, nor that he should be paid as nearly as much as Carson. But they have their new Amari Cooper since the end of last season. They've got obviously one of the best linebackers in Leighton Vander Esch. They've got Byron Jones at quarterback. Like they're a stacked team with even like DeMarcus Lawrence at D end or rushing linebacker. They're a skilled team, as well as they have one of the single best offensive lines in the entirety of football. But all of that said, we managed to beat them once a year, and they managed to beat us once a year. It's sort of like a give and take. However, I can't remember. There's one way it always goes. We either always win at Arlington Stadium, at Dallas, and they always win here at the Link, or we always win at the Link and they win at Arlington. I can't remember which it is, but basically, all intents and purposes, out of the the week 7 game and then the week 16 game, we're gonna win one of those, and we're gonna lose the other one. I don't know which one we will, because not only do we have something to prove every time we go to Arlington down in Dallas, but we have something to prove as well defending our home turf. So I don't know which one we're going to stay stronger on. My bet would be that coming off of the momentum, if we lose to Green Bay, I could see us losing to Dallas in the Week 7 game. But if we beat Green Bay and we're on a 6-winning streak, I bet you we could beat Dallas there, and then we'd lose in Week 16 to sort of like come off of our huge, at that point we can go over it, but probably would be somewhere in the range of 12-2. So with those 2 last games, we'd probably play with our backups. Nate Sudfeld will get some time. Some more backup running backs will get some time. Basically just resting our guys to sort of have one more practice against the New York Giants at New York at MetLife for Week 17. But basically, I think we're going to lose that Week 16 game, especially if we're hot coming off of Week 7. But then on to Buffalo. Again, Buffalo has a good team. They've got, now I wouldn't say a good team, they've got a team that could go 500, maybe. They have, obviously, an incredible corner in Tre'Davious White. They have their rookie quarterback in Josh Allen, who has some potential to grow. They've got Zay Jones at receiver. They've got, obviously, Shady McCoy, who's dearly missed here in Philly, at running back. And they also have on defense, they've got Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. So they're a team with some talent. However, the rest of their positions, especially when you look at things like the offensive line, are pretty weak. And with a quarterback as inexperienced as Josh Allen, being only a sophomore season on a team where he has some decent receivers, but an O-line that will let up sacks left and right, you've got a team that isn't ready to take on a Super Bowl caliber team like the Eagles. So I'm predicting in that Week 8, we're going to probably pretty soundly defeat Buffalo. Now, I know in my last video I only did the first 4 teams, but that's because, especially with Atlanta and Green Bay, those are a lot more hotly contested. I think we're going to push it to, we'll do up to week 10 at this. So Week 9, we play, I don't know when our bye week is, because I can't see, it's not on here, it doesn't seem to be. I'll have to try and find it. It might be, oh no, okay, it's between, we're on bye weeks, or week 10, I believe. Yeah, because we play the Chicago Bears Week 9, and then we skip a week because it goes from the 3rd to the 17th, so our bye week is Week 10. But anyway, Chicago Bears. This is definitely a revenge game for them after losing off of that incredibly unlucky double doink. And incredibly lucky for us, obviously. They had the talent to win that game. Just, obviously, Mitchell Trubisky made a couple mistakes. The whole team didn't play as hard as they could have, didn't play as well as they could have, I should say, because you could tell they were playing their hearts out. And I don't think their defense made as much of a impact as it could have possibly. But, saying that, they did lose a couple of key pieces. They lost Adrian Amos, which is huge, because he's one of their best defensive, one of the best players in that secondary. You still have cornerbacks like Kyle Fuller, but obviously losing Adrian Amos is going to be a big loss. Aside from that, you still have the pieces that you typically do. You did lose Jordan Howard, so you now only have one running back. But I think the Bears are still going to do incredibly well this season. I think Mitchell Trubisky has to prove something still, and so he's going to play like that. But that being said, I don't know if they have the talent to beat us. I would say that this is probably the first game, aside from Green Bay, that we have a real chance to lose. I'd call it about a 50-50. Because here's what I'm thinking. We have an O-line to be able to counter that D-line. Like, Khalil Mack is an elite pass rusher. That's not up for debate by anyone. But when you're going up against Jason Peters or Andre Dillard, whoever's playing at that point, because this is week 9, and Jason Peters might be injured by this point, but you've got Jason Peters or Andre Dillard, you've got Sayamalu or somebody else playing that left guard, you've got Jason Kelce, one of the best centers in all of football, Brandon Brooks at right guard, and Lane Johnson at right tackle. You've got players who are veterans, who are some of the best in the league, arguably the best offensive line in the league, going up against arguably probably one of the best D-lines in the league, with, obviously Khalil Mack and other people like that. But I think that's going to be an even enough match that our D-line against their O-line is going to be a little bit more of a win for us. That being said, they have the advantage heavily in the secondary. I think that even though we have incredible receivers like Alshon, and with the addition of Djax, let me say, who's going to be an incredible receiver playing with Carson, because he's exactly the kind of guy that Carson would want. Fast, small, and could do things like Nelson Aguilar that we saw in that Texans game. That was Nick Foles. But that's the kind of way the Eagles like to play. Those long vertical routes that we can use just to have our smaller and faster guys beat out their linebackers or their slower, taller corners. But that being said, I still think we're going to have some trouble because obviously Alshon was a Bear a couple years ago. So they'll have some better idea how to cover him. And with him taken away, unless Djax goes off, and I mean absolutely goes off, I think it's going to be hard. So just because I don't want to seem like this is completely biased, I know it obviously is going to be because I'm a huge Philly fan, but I'm going to say that we lose to the Bears, not only because that's what Adam Rank said when I was watching his predictions for the Eagles, but because their team matches up so well with ours that I think it's a good place to put a loss. So at this point in the season, at week 9, we are going into the bye week at 7-2, which is incredibly strong, and we might even be going in 8-1 if we beat either the Bears or the Packers. Obviously, we could be going in 6-3, or God forbid 5-4, if we manage to lose to either the Falcons or the Vikings, or we don't beat the Cowboys. We could take our loss to the Cowboys. So I believe a fair range is anywhere from 5-4 to 8-1. More leaning towards 7-2, because I feel like the Falcons we can beat. I feel like it's really just a competition between the Packers, the Vikings, the Cowboys, and the Bears in the first 9 weeks. And I think we split one with the Cowboys, so we get a win there. And I think we have something to prove against the Vikings since we lost there last year, and we're looking to make a Super Bowl push this year. So I think it's a reasonable assumption to say that we lose to Green Bay and Chicago and go into the bye 7-2. Now, since we are at a good stopping point at week 10 at the bye, I think we're going to cut this video off here. So if you are interested in me making the final part to this, which I'll probably try and wrap up, especially considering the majority of our division games are in that last stretch of the schedule from week 10 to week 17. If you are interested in me making that video, please just watch this and leave a like or a comment down below. This is Finn's Philly Sports, and you know where to find me if you're hungry as a dog for that next Super Bowl title. Thank you, and goodbye.